Hello everyone! Hello! My name is Emma Larkin and I am here today to read you some lovely stories. Isn't that going to be great fun? So the lovely people at Kerry Library, they asked me to record this video as part of Ireland Reads Week to read some lovely stories to you and to show you how fun and great it is to read books and to look at books and look at the pictures and have lots of fun reading. So I have loads of lovely books that I like to read, and I'm going to pick out two of my favourite books today and read them for you. So I'll tell you about myself just a little bit. My name is Emma Larkin. I love reading, I love running, I love playing football, I love playing lots of sports, and I also love writing. And I have written how many books have I written now? I have written 4 books for children. So the first book I wrote was called Izzy's Magical Football Adventure. Will I show it to you? I have it here. So this is Izzy's Magical Football Adventure. And I read that in another story time, which you can watch if you'd like to. So in Izzy's Magical Football Adventure, Izzy is a 7-year-old girl, and Izzy goes on a magical football adventure with her great-grandmother's bracelet, which turns out to be magic. Isn't that exciting? So Izzy loves lots of different sports. So that's Izzy's Magical Football Adventure. So I also wrote Izzy's Magical Camogie Adventure. This is Izzy's Magical Camogie Adventure. So this is one of the books that I'm going to read for you today. So I hope you like it. The other books that I have written are called Izzy's Magical Christmas Adventure, but I don't think it's the time of the year to read that. In Izzy's Magical Christmas Adventure, Izzy goes on a special sporting magic Christmas adventure to the North Pole. And then I've written another new book called Twin Power, which is about twins called Aoife and Aidan who love playing football. But today, boys and girls, we're going to read, first of all, Izzy's Magical Camogie Adventure. Now, do you know what Camogie is? It doesn't matter if you don't. Some of you might and some of you might not, but that's okay. So Camogie is just like hurling. So in Ireland, hurling is one of our Gaelic games. It's one of our sports in Ireland. Hurling is played with a stick, I'm sure a lot of you know, and a slitter, which is the ball, a little small ball. And Camogie is the same thing as hurling, but it's girls playing it, but it's the same sport. So Izzy loves playing Camogie. So today we're going to learn all about Izzy's Magical Camogie Adventure. So I'll tell you a small bit about Izzy first, okay, about what it says on the back. So Izzy is an 8-year-old girl. So in the first book, in the football book, she's 7, but now she's a little bit older. Izzy is 8 in this Camogie adventure. And she lives in Ireland and she loves all sport, especially Camogie and Gaelic football. So Izzy plays Gaelic football with her local club called GAA, and she has just started playing Camogie. So Izzy is very excited to learn how to play Camogie. But she is frustrated when she can't master all the skills as quickly as she'd like. Because sometimes, boys and girls, you can find, you know, when you're playing Camogie or hurling or any sports, that it can be hard sometimes to manage some of the skills, so that you might be able to pick it up properly or something like that. But you could just keep practicing and having fun with it and it will come. So Izzy is getting just a little bit annoyed in this book because maybe she can't quite get the skills as quickly as she'd like. But one day she's going to put on her great-grandmother's bracelet, and some exciting and magical things can happen when she puts on this bracelet. So are you excited to find out what happens? Will we get started? Will we read it? Okay, this is Izzy's Magical Camogie Adventure by myself, Emma Larkin, and illustrated by Paul Nugent. Paul has done the beautiful, beautiful drawings in this, and you will see them soon. Oh, before we start, I must show you this. On the front page of Izzy's Magical Camogie Adventure is a poem by Patrick Kavanagh. He's one of Ireland's most famous poets, and he used to write poetry, and he wrote a poem about a camogie match. And in this poem, he mentions my real grandmother. Maureen Cashman was her name, and she played camogie for Cork a long, long time ago, boys and girls. But she was a great camogie player, and she's mentioned in this poem. So I put it there on the front page because I thought it would be lovely to have it there. So the last line of the poem says, Maureen Cashman is tackling the bold Ideo Kylie. So I thought that was kind of cool, boys and girls. And that's a picture actually of my grandmother and her camogie team, the Cork Camogie team. So there they are. Okay, so now we get started with the story. So, it was a beautiful spring day in March. The daffodils were in full bloom and the lawn was starting to dry out. I was out in my usual spot in the back garden doing one of my favourite things, which was playing football. I was happy that spring was here, as it meant that my football team, Bally GAA under-10s, would soon be back training outdoors. Our team had been training indoors for a few weeks, and I was really enjoying the training, but I couldn't wait to get back out on the field once the weather improved. I turned 8 before Christmas, and I was now on the under-10 team along with lots of my friends. We were all very excited about the new season of football ahead. Right now, I was practicing some of my football skills. I was kicking and hand-passing the ball against the wall of the shed in the back garden. I preferred to be playing a match with my brothers, but Patrick and Robert were at a football blitz this morning with Mom, and David was helping Dad to clear out the shed. I got a bit bored of kicking the ball by myself, so I wandered into the shed to see how Dad and David were getting on. Dad was moving old broken toys and balls and muttering about needing a skip. David was tidying up old football boots. I noticed what looked like a piece of wood under one of the football boots. I moved it, and it turned out to be a hurley. It had David and Bally GAA written on it. Next to it was a dusty blue hurling helmet. Is this your hurley? I asked David. See, there's Izzy with the hurley, and there's her dad clearing out the shed. It was, David laughed. I played hurling for a while when I was 8, but then I decided to stick with football. I might go back to it sometime though. Well, you'll need a bigger hurley if you do, I laughed. This one is way too small for you. David is 13 now and he's really tall. You're right, Izzy, David agreed. It would be perfect for you though, he said thoughtfully. I realised that he was right. Is hurling fun? I asked. It looks really fast on the television. Oh, it's great fun, David said. It's a very skillful game and it's fast, but you would learn all that if you trained at it. But there is no camogie team in Bally GAA, I said. That's where you're wrong, Izzy, Dad said. Dad was taking a break from all the lifting and moving the broken stuff, and he'd walked up behind us during our conversation. It turned out that Dad had just heard the previous day that Bally GAA were thinking of setting up camogie teams at underage level, and they were looking for girls to give it a try. Well, what do you think, Izzy? Dad asked me. Would you like to give camogie a try? I'd love to, I said, but I'm a little nervous that I wouldn't be any good at it. Don't worry about that, David said. I'll go through some of the skills with you before the first training session. And anyway, everyone will be starting off together and learning. I'm sure lots of your friends from football will be excited to give it a go as well. Excitement was building in my stomach. The more I thought about camogie, the more I wanted to play it. That afternoon, I found a slitter in the shed. See the slitter there? And David showed me a few skills. He showed me how to grip and swing the hurley, how to solo, and how to lift the slitter off the ground with the hurley and strike it. Some of the skills were hard, but it was so much fun. I couldn't wait for the first training session. April rolled around, and soon enough the day of our first camogie training session arrived at Bally GAA. Lots of girls arrived in anticipation of an hour of fun. And it was all that and so much more. Look, there they are, boys and girls, at their first training session. Does that look like when you go play one of your sports down your local pitch? All having lots of fun. They're wearing their helmets, they have their hurleys and their slitters, and they're all smiling and laughing and having fun. Okay, back to the story. So we played fun games, we learned new skills, and we made new friends. I went home buzzing with excitement and anticipation, as our coach had told us that we'd be going to 4 blitzes in the summer. I love blitzes, as it means travelling to new clubs, seeing new places and playing loads of matches. As spring turned into summer, I kept up my practice in the back garden, not forgetting to practice my football, of course. I soon got very comfortable with how to hold a hurley, and I was able to solo, even if I was a bit slow doing it sometimes. But the skill that I just couldn't get was being able to lift up and strike the slitter with the hurley. So you had to slide the big round part of the hurley, the bass, under the slitter, pop the slitter up so that you could strike it. No matter how much I tried, I couldn't manage it. Even if I managed to lift up the slitter, I couldn't connect with it to strike it. It was playing on my mind, and as much as I loved going to training, I was worried that I would let our team down if I couldn't master this skill before our first blitz. Dad noticed that I was a bit down in the dumps, and he asked me what was wrong. First I told him that I was fine, but Dad knows me too well. So eventually I told him what was on my mind. "Ah, Izzy," he said, "you can't expect to be able to do all the skills straight away. Just go out there and enjoy playing, and the skills will come in time." "But I've no patience, Dad," I moaned. "It's just not working for me." "Why don't you take a break?" Dad said. "Look what Mom left out for you earlier." I looked at what Dad was holding and saw that it was a book about the history of Camogie. "Have a look at the photos in this," Dad said. "Your You might not be able to read it all, but have a look through. It's really interesting." I picked up the book and started flicking through it. I couldn't believe that Camogie had been around for over 100 years, since 1904. All the women playing it back then had to wear skirts down to their ankles. I wondered how they managed to run like that. I came to the part about teams in the 1930s and 1940s, and there was my great-grandmother Maureen. Mom had shown me pictures of her before. She was a brilliant camogie player. She was on her county team, which had won 3 All-Irelands in a row. Her team weren't wearing the long skirts down to their ankles. They had pinafore-type dresses which just came to their knees. See them there? I picked up my great-grandmother's bracelet, which was next to my bed all the time. It was made from her All-Ireland medals, and one time last summer it had taken me on a magical adventure. It was the most amazing thing that had ever happened to me, a journey into the future. I wondered would it take me on any more magic adventures. I had picked up the bracelet lots of times since my first magic adventure, but nothing had ever happened, and nothing happened again now. I tied the bracelet on my wrist, and I went back outside and I picked up the hurley. Maybe the bracelet would bring me luck with my skills, I thought. I wished so hard for it to work, and I went to lift the slitter, but once again I failed to strike it. I couldn't believe it. I felt like crying. Suddenly, the bracelet began to get hot and shake on my wrist. Then a strong wind came out of nowhere, and before my eyes a swirling tunnel appeared. It was the same tunnel that had taken me to Crow Park last summer. I was going on another magical adventure. I was pulled through the dark tunnel again. I could hear faint cheering. Then the wind calmed down. I opened my eyes. The sky was bright, and yes, I was back in Crow Park again. Well, I thought I was. It was Crow Park. I was almost certain, but it looked so different. Look, all the crowd were standing instead of sitting, and everything looked so old. I looked onto the pitch and there were women out there playing camogie. They weren't wearing the usual camogie gear that you usually see on players now, but it wasn't the long skirts down to their knees either from when camogie started. They were wearing the pinafore dresses that I remembered from the History of Camogie book. It dawned on me that instead of going into the future like on my last magic adventure, this time the magic bracelets had taken me into the past. I realised that these women looked like the camogie players in the photos from around the time that my great-grandmother Maureen was playing camogie. Could it be that her magic bracelet had taken me to one of her games? I looked down at my hand and to my astonishment I was still holding my hurley. I looked around and I saw a player close by to me on the sideline. She looked very sad. She looked at me as if she was confused to see me. "How did you get in here?" she asked. "You're too young to be playing." I thought quickly. "Oh, I was just helping out on the sideline," I said. This seemed to be a satisfactory answer for her. "What's your name?" I asked her. "Jenny Bell," she replied, and she burst into tears. "Oh, what's wrong?" I asked. "Are you not going to get a run? Is that why you're sad?" "Oh, no, that's not it," she said. "My hurley broke during the match and there's no spares, so I can't play anymore. And it means we're down a player." "No spares," I said. "Doesn't the coach bring extra hurleys?" She looked at me like I was an alien. "Spares?" she said. "We're lucky to have one hurley each. Peggy out there had to beg her neighbour to lend her his one as hers broke before the match, and he wasn't very happy about it. Sure, we've no money to buy hurleys." "Nice pass, Maureen," she shouted suddenly. I looked up, and there on the pitch in front of me, to my amazement, was my great-grandmother, looking exactly as she did in the photos in the book. "Are you on Maureen's team?" I asked Jenny Bell. "Yes," she answered. "Do you know her?" "Not really," I replied quickly, "but I think my mom does." I looked up at the scoreboard. Maureen and Jenny Bell's county team were winning by 4-1 to 2-1. "Your team were winning," I said to Jenny Bell. "Yes," she said. "We were winning by a lot more though in the first half. They're coming back at us now and the girls are tiring. I'd love to be back out there to help them." Suddenly I realised that I was still holding my hurley. "You could have my hurley," I blurted out. "Oh my goodness, that would be brilliant," Jenny Bell screamed in delight. She gave me a huge bear hug, took my hurley and ran over to the referee, who said she could go on. "I'll mind your hurley, I promise," she shouted back at me as she ran onto the pitch. When Jenny Bell came on, it really boosted their team and they all worked so well together, using their skills, urging each other on and supporting each other. They held on to their lead and at the final whistle it was 4-1 to 2-2. They all ran around in the pitch delighted, shouting, "2 in a row, 2 in a row." But Jenny Bell ran straight back over to me and gave me my hurley. "Thank you so much," she whispered. "You saved the day for us. The defence were really struggling until I was able to go back on." "You were all so good," I said to her. "Does it take lots of practice to get that good?" "Well, I wasn't allowed to play until I was a teenager," Jenny Bell said, "and I nearly gave up because I thought I'd never get the hang of the skills. But I'm so glad I kept at it because the skills came to me in the end, and now look, I've a great bunch of teammates and friends." And with that, Jenny Bell ran back over her teammates to join in their celebrations. The next thing I knew, the bracelet was getting hot on my wrist. The wind picked up and I was being whirled back into the tunnel until I landed with a bump back on the grass in my back garden. And my hurley was still in my hand, look. I ran straight to the slitter, more determined than ever, and practiced all evening, thinking how lucky I was to have a hurley, a helmet and all the gear I needed. The next day we had our first under-10 Camogie Blitz. "You've cheered up," my friend Cara said to me. "You were in very bad form last night at training." "I know," I said. "I was worried about not being able to pick up the slitter properly." "And how come you're not worried anymore?" Cara asked. "Can you do it now?" "Not really," I said. "But I've been thinking how lucky we are to have all such great coaches and all the gear we have and competitions to play in. When my great-grandmother played, did you know they'd no hurleys, they'd no helmets, they'd to beg for hurleys, It was so hard to travel to matches, and sometimes they even had to stop playing when they got married, imagine. And we can play whenever we want and we can have so much fun. So I decided to stop worrying about it. I'm sure it'll come to me if I keep practicing. Off we went and played 4 brilliant Camogie games. I loved it and I wanted to keep playing more than ever. I even managed to lift the slitter once and strike it. I didn't do it it wasn't very hard, but it was better than I'd ever managed before. See, they there at their blitz. After the match, Cara was beaming. You did it, she said. I know, I'm delighted, I replied. I was thinking, said Cara, how come you know so much about Camogie from a long time ago? Oh, I was reading a book about it, I said with a twinkle in my eye. My bracelet might have something to do with it too. What do you mean? Asked Cara. Her eyes went wide in amazement as I told her the story of my magical adventure. Oh my goodness, that is so cool, she exclaimed. Well, I don't know when it will happen again, I said with a wink, but who knows, on the next magic adventure, I might get to bring a friend. And there they are. There's Izzy and Cara at their first Camogie Blitz. Now, I hope you enjoyed hearing about Izzy's magical Camogie adventure, boys and girls, and I hope that you all love reading and going playing your sports and having fun. So I've one more lovely story to read to you today, and this story is called The Same But Different, and it's by Emer O'Neill. And some of you might have seen Emer because she's on RTE Junior sometimes and Homeschool Hub. And Emer has written this beautiful book called The Same But Different. So let's go and read it. Now, once there was a girl named Emer, as cute can be, full of fun and mischief and playfulness and glee. But as she grew up, she often wondered why some people stared at her and sometimes made her cry. She realized her skin was brown and not like all her friends. Her hair was thick and curly and frizzy at the ends. The other children called her names and made her feel so bad. She wished that she could look like them and have the hair they had. They'd say, "Hey, can we touch your hair? And you have funny skin." This really hurt her and made her sad within. Her mum would say, "You're beautiful, talented and smart." But still Emer felt sad deep inside her heart. Her mum said, "Look at all the crayons in your pencil case. So many different colours make the world a nicer place. If we all look the same, how boring life would be. The things that make me different are the things that make me me." She decided to ignore the hurt that people tried to cause. Instead, she learned to love herself just the way she was. The moral of the story is we should always just be kind and look beyond a person's skin to what is in their mind. We should love our differences, whatever they may be. Be happy being who we are and let our spirits free. Even with our differences, we are all just the same, running, jumping, having fun and playing lots of games. They all look like they're having great fun, don't they? It's nice to treat each other with kindness and respect, to love one another and find ways to connect. Now Emer is happy because this time she knows we're all the same but different, and that is how life goes. Now, wasn't that a lovely story, boys and girls? I think Emer's hair and skin is absolutely beautiful, and so is all the other boys and girls. And as Emer says, wouldn't life be boring if we were all the same? Isn't it great that we're all so different? So it's a beautiful story by Emer, The Same But Different. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed hearing Izzy's magical Camogie adventure. So have a lovely evening, boys and girls, and I hope to be back soon reading more stories to you on Storytime. Bye! The moral of the story is we should always just be kind and look beyond a person's skin to what is in their mind. We should love our differences, whatever they may be. Be happy being who we are and let our spirits free. Even with our differences, we are all just the same, running, jumping, having fun and playing lots of games. They all look like they're having great fun, don't they? It's nice to treat each other with kindness and respect, to love one another and find ways to connect. Now Emer is happy because this time she knows we're all the same but different, and that is how life goes. Now, wasn't that a lovely story, boys and girls? I think Emer's hair and skin is absolutely beautiful, and so is all the other boys and girls. And as Emer says, wouldn't life be boring if we were all the same? Isn't it great that we're all so different? So it's a beautiful story by Emer, the same but different. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed hearing Izzy's magical Camogie adventure. So have a lovely evening, boys and girls, and I hope to be back soon reading more stories to you on Storytime.